Welcome everyone to episode 2 of F Show. I am your host Fark, and I'm together here with an amazing person, Funky. Funky, my man, hello, greetings, how are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Hey, when it's time for an episode of the F Show, I'm always doing Farktastic, my friend. Absolutely amazing. This one, I'm super excited for this one, man. We've been working on it for a while now. The pre-production has been a thing as well. We have been going back and forth. I'm so looking forward to this episode, guys. We're going to be talking about tier lists and different things about classes and specs throughout Wrath of the Lich King. But before we dive into that, completely, first, what have you been up to lately? Like World of Warcraft wise, maybe? What have you been gaming, Funky? What's been like your life like the last 2 weeks?
Working with Teamy on the Restoration Druid Guide for all tiers. We've been working on that, and then playing CopyPasta, doing live streams, just discussing what you and I pretty much have been discussing going forth on things I've been talking about for a while now. That's basically about it. That's all I've been doing is playing on CopyPasta, streaming, playing TBC as well, leveling my druid up, and trying to figure out what realm I'm going to play on EU, and start leveling my druid there. Yeah, I'm going to have to go high pop for EU, but that's about it.
CopyPasta, interesting. Actually, one of my viewers that I know for a while now posted some screenshots on the Discord from CopyPasta. It looks fun. It's
okay. It's obviously clearly it's a private server, so it's got its bugs. There's issues, but it's more of just, hey, I can put it on and play during a live stream.
Right.
That's about what I'm using it for.
Right. Yeah, I get it. From what I heard, at least the rating is fun. It's kind of interesting. You're level 60 with Wrath of the Lich King talents, and you're 20 manning a Molten Core. So that's like an interesting idea. Okay, this is completely different than like classic WoW, where you had like these stock talents. The classes were not shaped out right. You still have druids with wild growth and stuff like that. So that's why I think it's interesting, at least from that point of view. It's a very unique server with kind of, I would say, custom scripting, kind of, right? But not to dwell on that too much. I do want to get us to the point. We're going to be talking about something special today, and something interesting, something that no one really talks about, and that is actually incorrect, meaningless DPS tier lists. Funky, let's dive into the first one. Let's just go.
So many of them. There's so many.
Right, let's switch to the other panel. Now, we have prepared a couple of panels for you viewers. The previous one, you could hear us talk, pretty much. It was an introductory podcast. This one, we're going to be analyzing things a little bit. There's a lot to cover. Okay, you have way more experience interacting with this platform than me. Let's start maybe, Funky, with GnarlyGuides, aka WarcraftTavern, where this screenshot was taken from, that you can see, by the way.
Anyone with half a brain should know WarcraftTavern. Before we even start on these tier lists, it is horrible for information. Now, I'm not saying the guides that they have for like skinning and leatherworking, all the professions, I haven't really tested those out myself. I'm sure they're somewhat correct, but as far as classes go, just run away from this website.
Yeah, I think it's really important that everyone, I think most of people from like the Wrath community kind of know that GnarlyGuides are considered to be a meme, specifically WarcraftTavern. Like people who have been around the block for a while, that maybe have played on several servers and have some experience under their belt. I think most of these people kind of know, don't touch that with a 10-foot pole that's filled with factual garbage, right? Just math that does not hold water, rotations that make no sense, like Resto Shaman, start spamming chain heal, like stuff like that, right? Complete banalities, right? But I think the issue is here, now that kind of everyone expects Classic Wrath is coming out, from what I've noticed, at least on Synergy now, in Dalaran, everyone is copying these talent builds, these nonsensical talent specs. And the issue is also they have this DPS tier list that you can see on your screen, which also, in my opinion, is mathematically incorrect, right? Like, what are we basing this DPS tier list on? Now, once again, I can't emphasize enough. Like, you're on Synergy, you're in Dollar, and you start inspecting people. Like, let's say, you're capped for the week, you've done your raids. After a raid, like, I would sometimes inspect people, and I'm like, what is this guy gemming, or what is this guy talenting, or what is this ret doing, or what is this prot doing, or like just a priest. My god, I'm the last guy who should be talking about actual, deep facts about the priest, but even I know like certain basic things about Shadow Priest, like, hey, why does this Shadow Priest have MP5? Like, what's going on here? Even yesterday, I saw a warrior gemming spirit. I'm not kidding you. The dude didn't.
I've seen it all.
Like, it's kind of like, how can is it even possible, like, to regress so much? And maybe, I don't know if you want to touch upon that a little bit.
It's hard for me to like explain. I don't even know where to explain this stuff, where they're getting it from. I have not a clue. It's just terrible. Like, for instance, looking at this list, like you said, Shadow Priest up there. I mean, if we're talking, let's assume everyone's really good. Everyone knows their stuff,
Yeah.
right? So there's no skill factor being played in here. Why do you have Shadow and Arcane at the top? At the end tier? No way.
Yeah, at the 88 tier, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, there's no way. I mean, Balanced Druid, sure, you're going to want one, but its DPS would be more in B tier. It's going to be terrible. Your balance is probably going to be, along with Shadow Priest, is going to be probably two of your worst DPS, but they bring buffs that you want, so you take them. I'd put an Ellie further up. Ellie's a little bit to have it, or not Ellie. I'd put Enhanced, excuse me, above Ellie. There's just so much wrong here. I mean,
yeah. Here is like a big question mark I have. Here is my issue with this. Like, what is going on here, dude? Like, what is this? Like, don't get me wrong, bro. I'm all about Tyrion Fordring. I love Red Pally. Like, I even played it to the death. Like, I still, they can pump. They're useful, but like, wait, what are we talking about right now there? Like, in which scenario are they at? Like, it's so hard to understand. Are we talking just numbers? Like, are we talking just Lich King? Are we talking just LOD? Are we talking zero buff LOD? Like, are we talking like where is Paladin S tier? That's also kind of my issue. Like, don't get me wrong, Paladins are amazing. I love Paladins. I don't have a Ret Paladin right now on my roster, and I'm molding, right? I'm molding the fact that I don't have a Ret. I want a Ret. I need a Ret on my roster. I don't want to raid without the Ret. But like, if you look at this, like, in which, like, what is going on here, dude? Right? Like, and this is your most popular, well, at least most marketed website, right? Because of the way Google AdSense works and everything, this is the most marketed website. If you type Wrath of the Lich King right now, any talent spec after that, you're gonna get this, right? You're gonna get also this website which has this hooked up, and this is in my opinion, like, I don't know, like also we can maybe ask, like, why is Frost Decay in B? Like, what? Like, why are they so low? They still slap.
I mean, even at end game, you're not going to be taking. Like, again, this depends on if we're talking private server and how things. We don't know how Blizzard's going to script stuff, so we're assuming that this is going to be based off a proper scripted 3.3.5a realm. Actually, your Frost is actually going to be at end game, at least below. It could be below even. Well, on Warmane, it would be below Blood, because Blood Dancing Rune Weapon's currently broken, and if you know how to play the class. If you know how to play the class correctly, it's going to out DPS Frost. Plus, Frost will bring no buffs that you're assuming you're running with a Blood DK. He's going to have improved Icy Talons and everything else, so you're not going to need to even take a Frost DK. So this, I don't know how they're coming up with these lists. Because they're really not saying, what your raid comp is, which could change a lot of the listing here and how they have them. I think, to your point, what are we basing this on? Like you said, we've got Ret and S tier. Don't get me wrong, Ret brings a lot of utility.
Yeah,
they're really good. Aura Mastery, D-Sack, stuff like that. Absolutely, Hand of Sacrifice.
Yeah.
Tons of stuff.
Imp LOH, for example,
Right,
which no one runs.
Right. They bring tons of stuff to the raid, but do I really, in terms of DPS, are they top tier? Not in my opinion.
No,
I mean,
no,
if we're talking skill not playing a factor here, yeah. And this whole list, Feral. Why is Feral in B tier?
I was about to point that out. I was about to point that out. Like, what is going in here? Like, why are we putting Feral in B tier? It's like almost saying, like, if you look at this page, it's like saying, oh, Feral is like, maybe you could squeeze, like, the way you look at it, right? Okay, you have an S, right? These are your kings and queens, right? They're absolute gods of DPS, and then you have, okay, let's have one or two, let's have one of two, and then you have B tier, which is like what, maybe
your classes that are going to bring buffs that you have to have, like your Boomkins, like your Shadow Priests, like things like that.
Yeah, but in B tier you have Feral, and it's like, wait, have you who made this DPS tier list? Have you never seen Feral pop off? I mean, for God's sake, Hysteria goes to Ferals, right? For a reason.
Right, and I think a lot of issues with Feral is people just don't even understand how to play the opener correctly, how to use Berserk correctly. There's so many different prevailing theories out there on how to use that class and time it out with Hysteria and your trinket procs. If you don't do it exactly right, it can mean the difference between you pulling, I don't know, let's say, for example, 15k DPS versus 12k DPS. Like, there's such, knowing how to do the rotations, that player has to be absolutely skilled at tracking his trinket procs, knowing what needs to be when he can Ferocious Bite, when he's got to do a Savage Roar refresh to, keep his buff going, or when he can do a Rip buff. There's so many different things, which is why Feral, in my opinion, is, way harder to play versus a lot of these classes that are 3 or 4 buttons.
But I can tell you right now, like, as a red, like, if you have, it also, of course, depends on, like, full base what we're talking about. Are we talking about, like, you're progging ICC, or where are you, like, in the terms of armor penetration? Like, if you're just fresh in ICC and you give your first Deathbringer's Will to Feral, let's just say he's one of the first ones that's gonna hit armor penetration cap, like, even if, like, your red has, like, Death's Verdict Heroic, that Feral is popping off. Like, I don't see a universe where red early on in that tier is going to, like, just smash over a full armor penetration capped Feral. And then, like, if we're gonna talk about how hard is the class to play, like, there's the whole skill, right? How hard is the class to play? It is way easier to play Feral than it is red, right? From 7, 8, 9 in tiers, and maybe in 10 they kind of pick up in difficulty, simply because you have to monitor your Divine Storm resets. Debatably you could say that, actually what you're doing there kind of is more interesting and more involved. I wouldn't say even debatably, it is, more involving class rotation, but even then, like, Feral has so much going on, man, right? Has so much going on, and it has so much more impact. For example, let's say you need to innervate and then you need to B-res, and if you do these two things, even let's say you need to move a little bit, you need to move 5 yards away from melee, you need to innervate, you need to B-res, you lose those 3-4 seconds. If you do it at the wrong time, it's going to impact your DPS way more than it is going to impact the red, just to throw Salvation, right? Whereas for one class, it could be more than just one GCD potentially, right? So there's skill factor, massive skill factor there, which is also not being taken in account. Like, your average red can pump damage easier than your average Feral, but your best Feral should smash your best red on single target. It's just simply.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Simply how it is, right? That's kind of, I think, if there was even a debate about, hey, what about skill? What about this? There are levels to this, right? There really are levels to this when it comes to that. But not to dwell too much in this, we can maybe start talking about another point that we have, another slide. Would you like to open on this one, Funky? You have the honors.
What is this for again? Which one was this? Just
we're on the second slide where it's copy my homework, but make it seem so that I was not the one who copied it.
This is from Toyhouze, right?
Yes, correct. We're on that.
And this
slide
is
now.
for tier 10, correct?
Correct. Yes.
He's got the same exact things that GnarlyGuides has.
Like, and this I would like to point out to viewers, just if I could implore viewers to take their magnificent eyes and please pay attention to this. Fury Combat Fire Affliction Red. Fury Combat Affliction Red Fire. It is literally the same DPS tier list taken from WarcraftTavern, aka GnarlyGuides, and then uploaded onto YouTube. It's literally the same. And here's the biggest issue that there is with YouTube nowadays. It's like people who never even played Wrath of the Lich King competently in any way, shape, or form, either PvP'd on rating above 1600 or cleared any bosses that are relevant on heroic/hard mode, are making content on YouTube right now telling people what they should be doing, what specs they should be playing when they have no clue what they're doing, right? This is mind-boggling. This is really astonishing, okay? That you have people who have no perception, no clue, okay? They have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. They're regurgitating information from other people and copy-pasting it and just spamming and pumping these YouTube videos. It's just trash and garbage, one after another. Just mathematically incorrect, factual trash, right? If it was an equation, you would be dividing by 0 every single fucking time, okay? Sorry for the F-bomb, but I can't emphasize enough. This is like one of the examples also that we kind of came up with and wanted to show to people. This is just mind-boggling, guys. Like, how can someone like just copy that? Just can't you come up with something like this? Is literally the same thing. And then I have a big also question here. Why are these classes even here? Okay, maybe you want to touch upon this a little bit. Why is BM Hunter here? Why is Sub-Road here? Like, what is going on? Why is Frost Mage here?
Nobody's going to use.
Is there not?
Nobody's going to use.
This is not
nobody's
TBC.
Use Frost.
Even in TBC, you don't play Frost Mage. Like, what's going on here, dude? Like, I don't get it, man.
Yeah, no, at least those should just be taken off the list. You're not going to use Frost. It's if anybody shows up to a raid with Frost as a Frost Mage in tier 10, yeah, there's no way you're getting invited. Other than like, okay, you're maybe playing a memes. You're doing it because you're bored in the game and you want to go see if you can actually, what kind of DPS you can actually pull. Sure, I get that, but why even put them on the list? I mean, BM, Frost, Sub, what are some other ones? Like, Destruction should be down there as well. Survival, meh. I guess you could leave survival at D maybe, but
Flood.
Yeah, the rest of some of these are just insanely ridiculous for them to even be on the list whatsoever. They're clearly and obviously PvP specs, and they don't perform well at all in PvE. So why they're even being put on a list, I have no idea.
Yeah, it really is bizarre, as I said. Like, and it's a complete copy paste. And once again, just to reiterate, this is complete copy paste, just a different order, right? And this is really magnificent, guys, because it only gets better from here, right? So this is the first iteration, which is copy paste, okay? And then, you know, there is a backlash from community. There is a bunch of you who have played on Warmain, like, for a couple of years. You know, you go into comment section and you're tearing it apart, right? Because here's the thing. If an average raider has more knowledge, I'm not talking about insane hardcore playing like on Lorder, on Icecrown, Frostmourne, 3 characters every week raiding non-stop. If your average raider knows more about the game than the content creator, then there is a massive problem. Massive problem with the community. There is a massive problem with content creators. Maybe you can touch upon that a bit as well, Funky. If you
well, like you kind of talked about it a little bit earlier. these content creators, and I get it, a lot of them are doing it for the views. I mean, obviously, you've got Scotty J out here talking about it. I believe he pinned it in one of his comments, where he's talking about if he doesn't do these videos now, then everything's going to pass him by and he won't have the viewership. While I get that from a creator content standpoint, but the problem is you're not helping anybody out with what you're doing and putting out false information. Now, some of this stuff, I will say, like, at least from Ruggs and Scotty, some of it is kind of a little bit of truth mixed with a lot of unknowns, sprinkled with their personal experience from, other people. Like, you look at Ruggs, for example. A lot of his information is coming from Anfall, which I covered in my last Retards of Warmane video, where Anfall's talking. He doesn't understand how Haste has DR, and how, he doesn't understand how Haste has diminishing returns. He doesn't understand how he doesn't understand the difference between that diminishing returns and what's the word I'm looking for here? I'm going to find it sooner or later. He doesn't understand that. Talking about double disc priest, for example, that's not optimal at all. Ruggs is learning from people that don't even know what the heck they're talking about, because they're playing on servers that don't even have any competition, or they're playing with people. I mean, look, I've got the screenshots of Anfall talking about how he thinks his realm first, how he's using his realm first to win an argument. Well, I've done realm first. I know what I'm talking about. No, you don't, dude. No, you don't. You don't have a clue what you're talking about, first of all. Second of all, you're just pumped just because you were carried to a realm first. I've seen lots of people carried to realm first. Okay, you go to look at Aubie. Aubie has a realm first. He was clearly carried to it. I was there. I helped carry him to it. In fact, in that guild.
It's an interesting story, yeah.
It was, but you got to. There's no fact checking that goes on. If this was back in the day, and these people were posting these videos, they'd be fact checked by the community. Now, there's very few of us out here willing to fact check these guys. And I know what I was going to say now. He doesn't understand the difference between Haste having diminishing returns and like when you reach a break point, for example, when that stat has less value of a stat. That's where he's getting mixed up at. And just because something has less value or more value does not mean it has a diminishing return. It's just the value of the stat increases or decreases. But yeah, these channels are... And it's sad for me as a theory crafter, as a player, to watch these channels blow up, and all because they're worried about their viewership. They don't care about getting the proper information out. They don't care who they tell it to. They just care about, oh, look at that. I got 15,000 views on this video. I'm going to make another one. That's not helping anything. I mean, even the comment section where you're talking about he got slammed in that comment section. Toyhouze did when he first did his DPS tier list. So what's he do? Instead of deleting the video or removing the video, he comes out with another one that's just as bad.
Yeah, I really like to reiterate Funky's point, guys. Like, first of all, I'm not the massive theory crafter, right? Traditionally, like, I have always been a raider, right? I'm not your theory crafter. Sure, when it comes to raid leading and shot calling, yeah, I do have plethora experience there when it comes to shot calling. But like in terms of actually, being there with theory crafters, I should not be there. My issue is nowadays, okay, guys, there's not a lot of people in TBC right now. The reason why I'm bringing up TBC is because the content creators from TBC that are uploading stuff, let's say Wowhead. Now I can tell you from personal experience, Wowhead Protection Paladin Guide for TBC in its first iteration was the most misguided, shameless, pathetic upload ever to touch World of Warcraft content creation ever. Ever, with caps lock, underline that, okay, italic bold, ever. Okay, maybe in another episode I will show you what I mean. These people who are keyboard turners, clickers, have no clue about add-ons, have never cleared this, have no clue about private servers whatsoever, are writing guides they have no clue about, guys, okay? And this is currently happening in TBC right now, and this is the same thing that's going to happen. Mark my words, guys. Give it one more year, The same dude is gonna make the same guide, Protection Paladins, Wrath of the Lich King. He's gonna copy this garbage from WarcraftTavern. He's gonna copy the stupid 5% crit build, and so many people are gonna lose their minds. It is absolutely beyond pathetic, okay, that an average raider has 10 times more knowledge and experience than a content creator. Now, once again, back in the day, that was not the thing. Back in the day, your content creators, your streamers, they were somebodies. Like, I implore you, those who remember Creparian, guys, he was one of the best hunters back in the day. He got world first Diablo on, it's not Nightmare, on Inferno, right? It's people of high intelligence and high IPM, like both intellect and skill was involved. Those were kind of like the heroes that we championed back in the day. And nowadays, like, it feels like every bum from Stormwind City sewers can just upload on YouTube and they just get clicks just because they're the only ones doing it. Like, first of all, take a look on the screen. I'm ranting here, but like, we can start talking about this maybe. Like, where do I even start? Why is Blood DPS even on this tier list, right? Like, I don't know. Do you want to touch upon that, Funky? I know you have a lot of...
Why is the Elemental down at B tier? Elemental is probably one of the best DPS in Nax on early tier 3.3.5. Why is it down at B tier? Where does he... In Fury and Arms, sure, I guess they're pretty much interchangeable, but they're really just spam Sunder Armor bots until later on.
Yeah, look, why is BM here? Once again, why is this here? Why is even Blood DPS being mentioned? This is mind-boggling for me. Like, this stuff is being mentioned, right? Like, sure, you can have that. I mean, you put Retribution on B. And here's the thing, like, based on what? Are we talking based on Blizz-like Nax? That was a ruffle stomp even back in the day? Let me put this in perspective. 2 days or 3 days after expansion launch, after Ranked launched, everything on farm. We're talking about 3.0, like literally 3.0, or you can call it 3. Yeah, I guess it's 3.0, 3.1 is older, right? 3.0, everything was on farm after 2 days. What do you think is going to happen with 3.3.3? I know everyone says 3.3.3.5. It's like just 3.3. Like, if you have ICC talents, dude, like ICC scaling, like everything is gonna be on farm, insta. So then, like, you can say, okay, ret is B, but if ret is B, then you can also cleave on certain fights, which makes it stronger, right? That means that you can be an absolute padding bastard. Like, I'm thinking about, let's say, Anub Recon. Well, you're just gonna SOC and you're not gonna give a single care in the world. And this is where, of course, World of Logs is gonna come in and gonna be like, no, add damage doesn't count for parsing, blah blah blah. Then sure, this goes to B. But there's like so many inconsistencies with this like tier list. Like, why is enhance in C, for example, right? And then you also have Feral. Feral in an Axe patch is actually quite strong. They're not as bad as people think, right? They really are not, and they're especially stronger than freaking Fire Mage. Look, you should not. Like, I don't know.
No, and the other thing, just to go over this real quick. I mean, the problem with this list is, I mean, aside from what you have said and I've said about it, this content's going to be blasted through. I mean, sure, you could probably take Frost Mages in there and just nuke the content because it's, unless they change something, it's Nax. It's going to be easy. It's not vanilla Nax. It's 60. This is level 80 Nax, which was a joke. I mean, it's just going to get raffle stomped.
Like, even in my opinion, even like let's say they buff HP by 100%. Even if like they leave everything else as it is and just buff HP by 100%, it's still going to be a pushover. It's still going to be a pushover. There's nothing that hard in Nax, but I don't want to dwell too much on Nax. You said it yourself. Nax is easy. I kind of want to skip to the next slide. Do you want to add something about this slide before we go to the next?
On the next slide, no. I think okay. It's just a mess.
Yeah, agreed. There's also another beautiful slide. We can also talk about this one. This one is also mind-boggling for me. This one is also I don't get it. Like I can show you later why is this nonsensical. Once again, the D tier strikes. The D tier boss. At this point, I'm gonna just call it a D tier boss. This is just beautiful. Why is that even there? Why is it even there? It's like, why are you even mentioning this? This is not a thing, guys. This is like mentioning Shockadin during TBC, okay? If you're playing Shockadin in TBC as a PvE DPS spec, you're either A, just playing for fun, complete fun. You absolutely do not care about numbers whatsoever. You just want to go holy shock, go brr, and you're playing it like Call of Duty, which, you probably are not going to mesh with the rest of the community who treats raiding a bit more serious. B, you're completely oblivious and delusional to any kind of, min-maxing whatsoever. Or C, you're absolutely disrespectful to your raids and anyone who's actually putting in time trying to clear the content that's in front of you, right? This is the same type of thing. Why would you ever show up as Blood Decay? It's been proven time and over again. It's a meme. Same as Sub. Like, this is not Cataclysm. You're not gonna play Sub Rogue. This is Wrath of the Lich King, same as Frost. It's not happening. So, like, once again, it's like, I don't get it. Then you have this. BM is again here. Why is BM even being mentioned here? I really don't understand. Like, and then saying it's as good as Ellie. I mean, Ellie at least brings certain things. Now, if we're going to talk, we're talking about TOC, okay? And like Arcane, same as Fire, very debatable. Like, and first of all, okay, BM is here. Are we just here are my issues? Are we talking just like pure single targeted DPS? Are we talking all kinds of DPS? Are we talking raid utility? If we're talking raid utility, then Ellie goes way over BM. Purge Lord Jaraxxus, Interrupt Lord Jaraxxus, Nature Resist Totem, Bloodlust if you don't have a Resto for some godforsaken reason, etc. I don't know. As I said, I don't want to sit on TOC too much. I want to go to ICC. Do you want to add something here, Funky?
It's a... No. Let's just go to ICC because this talk is another joke.
All right. Let me switch to the next one really quick. And here comes probably the one that you're most passionate about. So I'm gonna let you take the lead on this one.
Look, like I know you're going to cover the ret, so I'll leave that alone for the most part, other than saying it shouldn't be in the S tier. Sure, there are a lot of classes that bring buffs to the raid. You got Balance in A tier, for example. Shadow Priest in A tier. Arcane's way too high. Arcane's okay-ish, but it's too bursty of a spec. It's not as good as Fire for longer fights. Balance and Shadow need to be at like B tier. At that point in time, Balance and Shadow are probably going to be pulling your mid to lower DPS. They're not being brought in for their DPS. They're being brought in for their buffs. Simply, the buffs they bring are too valuable to go into a raid without them. You've got Destruction on the list. Why? You've got Elemental and the same as Enhance. I'd actually give Enhance the slight edge because Ellie's bringing nothing to the raid. Again, like you're going to talk about C tier and D tier, pretty much everything in those tiers minus Enhance. Why is it there? Blood DPS actually should be way higher than D tier. Let's see here. Frost, you could even say Frost is useless at best in slot compared to other classes, compared to an LA, simply because Frost is bringing no buffs. If you have a blood tank in your raid comp, the blood tank is going to be bringing all the buffs that your Frost DK would be bringing. So pointless. Just a lot in here. That's just, where are they coming up with? Again, S tier. Sure. I wouldn't put Affliction up there either. I'd put it in A, not S. But Feral, Combat Fury, and Mage, sure, those will probably be your top DPS performers on the meters, but there's too many things and too many areas here and not enough. It's just all over the place. Like, I think they're putting value on the DPS it can do, I guess. But then again, why is Shadow and Balance up there? They're not really shouldn't be really be up there at all. I'd move bump Demonology even up a tier maybe. The whole list is just wrong.
Yeah, it's hard to understand. Like, once again, like, why is red? Don't get me wrong. Like, let's talk about red for a moment, okay? Let's talk about red. It has its uses. It has amazing raid utility, really amazing raid utility, replenishment, buffs, raid cooldowns. It's super good. Like, it's not as slow as well. Okay, you know, sure, others have charge, whatever. They have pursuit. They have 15% movement speed. They're not, you know, really that sluggish. They can move. Don't get me wrong, everyone has some type of movement, but they're not the slowest one either. You know, it's not like they're stuck in a mud necessarily. They don't have mana issues compared to TBC, but like, it's hard to understand because if you see, like, look at this. If you see Fury in combat here, that's like, okay, we're talking about DPS here, right? We're obviously talking about DPS here. And then you have Red, and then you're like, are we talking about DPS? Because Red is not there. Well, don't get me wrong, like, you get a couple of good procs on DS, and if there's a target that you're cleaving on, you're popping off, dude. You're having the time of your day. Like, okay, let's talk about Festergut, for example. I think everyone can agree that Festergut has targeted dummy kind of elements. And of course, don't get me wrong, before I get incarcerated by people, yes, there is some RNG. If you have to move, if you get Spore on Festergut, you lose DPS. Yes, okay, let's say everyone has equal RNG. Like, your ret is not really gonna be topping on Festergut. Like, that should not be a thing. So it's like, are we looking at single target damage? Are we looking at cleave damage? Is everything in there and together? And even then, man, like, Fury is like really gonna be hotly contested there, right? Are we talking about LOD? Is this LOD? If it is, then again, there's a lot of stuff that's it's so, like, once again, why is BM being mentioned as well? Low, as you mentioned it yourself, the shamans there, both of them being equally represented. It's like they're not. Your BM is not gonna be on the same tier as the shaman DPS. That's just a massive inaccuracy. But yeah, putting a ret up there, I disagree. Very much so. They're an amazing class. They're an absolute must-have in my opinion. I could not be shilling for them even more. It's just they're a massive inaccuracy to put them. It's pure single target DPS wise, no. And this is like where I don't get it. Like, where are these people coming with these numbers from? Anyway, before we go to the second segment of our podcast, which is going to be healing tier lists, do you have anything to add about the DPS tier list?
I mean, just working overall, looking at these lists that have been out there that we see on these channels, just if you're interested in playing these classes, just remember, I think a lot of people are going to look at them and say, well, they know Shadowmourn's out there. They know warriors are probably going to be... There's going to be a ton of warriors. Just remember that when you go to play Classic, because you're going to be competing against other warriors. Every guild's going to... You're going to... Depending on what guild you join or how many people are in that guild, etc., etc., be ready. If you're not skilled enough, you're probably going to be a bench player. And because you're not going to be taking a whole bunch of warriors in there. You're going to take 2 at most in most raids, especially towards tier 10. You'll take 2 at most. Be ready to ride the bench. And the servers are going to be flooded with these characters. They're going to be flooded with mages, flooded with ferals, flooded with probably warlocks, rogues, and warriors. When I think a lot of people forget, hunters are just as valuable with their MDs, traps, what they can do, deterrence, things like that. DK is the same thing. I think DK is a little undervalued here, with Unholy bringing in the spell damage buff. You look at Shadow Priest's balance, the buffs they bring. Sure, they're not going to be topping the DPS meters, but they bring in valuable buffs that you're going to want to have. So just remember that. I want to, because I know there's going to be a ton of warriors being played out there thinking they're going to get their Shadowmourn, and just be ready to sit the bench and ride the bench if that's the case, because there's going to be a lot of competition out there.
By the way, someone from this chat has shared a screenshot with us. And since you're a druid player, I figured I should relay that to you. The Koala has shared this with us while we are switching from the DPS tier list. Sorry for interrupting like that. While we're switching, I'm just gonna share this screenshot and you can view that. But yeah, I can't agree more with you what you said based on that. Like, it's overall it all feels like one giant dystopian meme in my opinion. But yeah, I'm gonna let you take a moment and look at this screenshot. Go through it really quick, and if you wanna add something, if you wanna add commentary on that, that's fine. If you don't want, if you wanna jump straight to healing tier list, we can do it as well. It's just like I found it interesting that one of our viewers linked that to us, and just wanted to share this with you super quick.
No, I'll read into it more here, but let's get to the healing tier list thing here first. Right. So, the first problem I got with this tier list, I have no problem with paladins being top. They're going to be needed, right? They're there to bomb your tanks. They provide some decent AoE healing with the Glyph of Holy Light. I got no problem with them being S tier or S tier. The problem I have here is when we go into Disc, because Disc is not what you would call a traditional healer. Disc needs its own tier list, I guess, and they'd be the only ones in it because they're mitigating damage. Now the problem with shields, you're trying to absorbs are guessed at. A lot of people don't realize that. They think, oh, absorbs. Da, 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 da. Look at Valanyr and how it works with absorbs. Let's say you got 4 Valanyrs in the raid, for example. Mine procs first. The other 3 people's procs after mine. And they're all of our, whoever proc the first shield gets all the shields that are being applied. So the absorbs are always guessed at. You can never tell. And when you're talking about a Disc Priest being, oh yeah, we got to have a Disc Priest. We got to have a Disc Priest. Okay, Lich King is the only fight where I would say, and I'll give you the argument that they are absolutely needed. Other fights, sure, do they help the other healers in the tier list heal by mitigating some of the damage? Sure. Is there that much of a need for them versus, let's say, for example, instead of taking a disc, you're taking an extra Resto Druid, or you're taking a Holy Priest? No, they're just as they're replaceable. Disc gets so much love from everybody, and I don't understand it. You've got Anfall out here saying double disc is great. Why would I want 2 Disc Priests with how Weakened Soul works when you're on Lich King and I can shield 20 people before Infest? So what's the other disc going to do? Shield 4 people, screw up their Rapture, and have nothing else to do because Weakened Soul is on all the other targets from the other Disc Priest? Disc gets way too much love. It's nice. It has its own niche, and I think it is useful. I'm not saying Disc is utterly useless and don't use it. I just think it's replaceable. You could use an extra Resto Druid and hell, even maybe another Resto Shaman or another Holy Priest in place of them until Lich King. Once you reach Lich King, they're kind of 100% necessary for obvious reasons of how Infest works. But there's fights they're just useless on. There's a Nubarak, useless. Valithria Dreamwalker, useless. There's just a lot of fights where they're just not going to be doing a whole lot. Halion, which is the last boss in the expansion, useless. Especially people, I got this comment the other day, somebody on my YouTube saying, Funky, they are absolutely 100%, you have to have a Disc Priest in the Shadow Realm. Why? What sense does that make? The shields are going to pop. They're going to have Weakened Soul on them. Or they're still going to have Weakened Soul if the shields if they don't pop. You're a terrible healer. Penance sucks as a heal. You got Prayer Mending, Flash Heal, the terrible heals. You're not built for that. You're built for shield spam. That's how discs are built for. They're terrible in that instance. I don't know why people keep insisting that they have to have them for Shadow Realm and Halion. Ridiculous. Moving down, though, you got to bump Resto Shaman up, in my opinion. Earth Shield, the ability to switch between tank healing and raid healing with Chain Heal, and we got it on the list. It's coming up here. You got Fortitude, you got Ancestral Fortitude, which is doing a reduction for physical damage on your tanks, and because Shamans have such a high chance to crit, it procs almost all the time. So really, really useful, I would say. you definitely need to bump them up, especially the way Earth Shield works. And once you get that buffed and glyphed, awesome heal to have. Resto Druid and Holy Priest. Now, I'm biased, of course. I play Restoration Druid. But as we've seen in all these progression guilds and all these people who take Restoration Druids, they always take them over a Holy Priest. So you got to give the disc, or the in my opinion, you'd have to give Holy the bump down and keep Restoration Druid above Holy. Holy's more of a reactionary here, whereas Restoration Druid, you're trying to anticipate the damage that's coming out before it hits. Okay, hey, I know Inhaled Blight from Festergut is coming. I better stop bombing my tank for 5 seconds and start getting my Rejuve Wild Growth going again on the raid because we're about to get hit. You have to think 5 steps ahead of where you are. Holy Priest is still viable. There's not a healer that is not viable. That's the great thing about it. If you're planning on playing any of these healers, there's not a non-viable healer in the game. The only reason why Holy Priest is kind of lower on that list, A, it's a lot more complicated to play. B, Guardian Spirit, it's okay as a cooldown. I would argue Resto Druid has better cooldowns. They bring better things like Revitalize to the raid to buff give energy back to your energy users, giving mana back, giving DKs, runic power back. Holy just requires reaction. If there's a bunch of raid damage, give me the Holy Priest. If there's a ton of raid damage going on, let's say you got half the raid sitting at 50% HP, Holy's gonna nuke them to death. They're great in that, but a lot tougher to play, a lot tougher to learn how you're going to play that class correctly and when to use what spell when, etc., without doing a dick ton of overhealing. But yeah, I think the healing list, to me, if you're talking, I rank them in essentially, I have to have this in my raid. Definitely, you're going to take a Holy Paladin. That's number one, without question. After that, I probably want a Shaman, Restoration Druid, and then, like I said, Holy Priest. And then Disc, sure, I guess. If I had to roll with one, sure. If I didn't have one, I'd be okay too. I don't think Disc is, again, necessary, and I don't consider them a healer since they don't really have good healing spells, and that's not what they're there for. So,
just to pitch in on that, I put my signature underneath that statement. One of each minus Holy. Like, I don't see, like, classic Wrath. I don't see a realm where you're gonna need 5 healers if stuff is not gonna be buffed, right? I'm talking Nax. You don't need 5 healers for anything. Really, don't. Maybe week 1 you're stepping in. You have a bunch of Sunwell gear. Maybe you just want to be safe. You just put another healer. Hey, I just want to clear it. I want people dying. Week 1. Yeah, okay, sure. Are we talking about you're going in Nax 1 month, 2 months, heck, 3 months into it? You're solo healing some fights, man. Like, if you're serious about parsing, or even just like pushing times or doing anything, like, why do you need 5 healers for something, man? Like, you don't need 5 healers for anything, right? Let's talk about Ulduar. Same thing there as well. If Ulduar, even if it's pre-nerf, even if it's like pre-nerf, I don't see Ulduar also being a challenge. Maybe I can see kinda Algalon having some kind of challenge because people are new to the fight. So you have a raid executing certain mechanics, wiping themselves. I don't know. They're pulling Algalon for the first time and they're just nuking the spheres, and they have Cosmic Smash and 2 spheres explode and they blow up the raid without a D-Sec up or something weird like that. Sure, Yogg 0, you pull it for the first time, people are gonna go insane. You lose their sanity because they can't restore it from Freya. But, I mean, look at Hodir. Like, it's as easy as it gets. Like, this is where once again, in my opinion, like just have an aura mastery, frost resistance, aura mastery, red just helps you tremendously there, right? There's like so
And
many things that you can do there. Like even like let's say a shadow priest. Hey, you have frozen blows on Hodir. Guess what? Your shadow priest can throw the healing hymn, top off the raid, and just continue pumping as long as you respect the mechanics. As long as you respect the mechanics, right? You stack up those fires. People are getting haste buffs. You're deleting Hodir in a minute. You can easily do it with two healers, right? Unless we're talking about buffed values, then we're talking about different thing. But from what we have seen, the first season of Classic Vanilla, everything has not been changed really. Everything has been stock. If anything, it has been easier than back in the day, considering the world buff meta. Let's look at TBC. Tier 4 has been a snooze fest. Tier 5 has been difficult, if anything, because of bugs. Like they released Kiltos and Lady Vash with like evade bug, with threat bug, and then even then afterwards people were using the Sproutlings on Lady Vash to cheese that fight. I mean, it's hilarious. Now we're looking at Black Temple and Mount Hyjal. People have that on farm on PTR. The raids are not even out yet. People have that on farm. So if we follow the decision making of Blizzard, and we picture Classic Wrath Season 1. I don't know, they have Season of Mastery now for Vanilla. We don't know. Are we getting TBC Season of Mastery? Maybe. Wrath, that's like too far in the future. Those are like murky waters, and I want to talk about that yet. But Season 1 Classic Wrath, most likely, we are not getting buffed HP values. We are not getting buffed damage values, and that means that you don't need 5 healers. And this is once again where I want to kind of emphasize my signature on Funky statement. One of each, probably Disco or Holy. Sign me up any time of the day. That's just my experience with the content. I'm sorry, you wanted to say something, Funky?
no, I was just also going to add in the fact that disc is useless on Yogg. And just real quick, the as far as shamans go, I would bump shamans down a little bit, maybe in the earlier tiers, just because they need so much haste to effectively cast Chain Heal, Lesser Healing Wave. But when you start getting into tier 9 and 10, where I think all the classes really start to shine as healers, definitely they're going to be playing more of a role. But I did forget to mention that shamans are really going to be behind the curve, since their casts are going to take forever until they really pound on the haste in the later tiers.
And this is probably maybe where even Resto Druid picks up in value. I don't know if you agree with that. Maybe an earlier tier, once again, I'm not even near your level of a Resto Druid, but I did play Resto Druid in tier 7 and tier 8 on War main. Once again, nowhere near your level, but like I never had mana issues. Like that was never a thing. Like
the fights are just so short that you're not going to have the mana issues. The problem is trying to figure out where to maximize your spell power at. And when we come out with the Druid guide, and from what Teamy has been testing with it, people are going to look at me like sideways, like, huh? Like you're going to go 2 or 3 living spirit. You're actually giving up 5% spirit for actually more spell power by getting further into the talent tree to get empowered touch. And it's a little bit weird, but at the same time, the fights are just so short. There's no big AoE fights, and the way that things changed from the Gift of the Earth Mother talent, at least for Restoration Druids, where it was a 20% haste buff, and in patch 3.3, they lowered that down to a 10% haste buff. You went from having, in the early tiers of tier 7 and 8 for Restoration Druid, for example, needing don't quote me on this, was like 347 haste, was haste cap then. Now you're talking about essentially doubling that and having to go 735, and that forces you to go get Celestial Focus. I mean, without Celestial Focus, we're talking 856 haste, which is over double. It changes how you play the class entirely as far as going for your talents, and if spell power or haste is more valuable to you. And these fights are just so short, and there's just so many non-AoE fights in tier 7 and 8 that really spell power is actually a better throughput for you than getting or having mana regen. We have yet to fully figure that whole mana regen thing out, but I can't imagine them having any mana issues, especially with the changes that were made to Innervate down from a 5-minute cooldown to a 3-minute cooldown. I don't foresee an issue with mana.
While we are on topic of healers, do you maybe want to discuss Valanyr?
The bane of my existence. Valanyr. Now Rugs has a tier list out. Excuse me, and I don't know if we have a picture of that or not, but it's kind of accurate.
I'll pull it up. I'll pull it up. Give me a second. Continue.
All right. It's one of the things he actually did kind of correct. Although I would have taken, I believe I commented on that video and said that Shaman shouldn't be as high. Should have bumped it down a hair. Valanyr is still going to perform well on all classes, minus Disc, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of what it's the most valuable on, people, sure, they can argue it's most valuable on Holy Paladin, and I get that argument. I would argue it's more useful on Restoration Druid, simply because it has a chance to proc off of a 35% chance to proc when it's off cooldown from any heal you do. Well, Druids obviously have a ton of rejuves going out, wild growths, a ton of heals to be able to proc that, to get it back up quicker. Your Paladin spamming Holy Light isn't going to have as many chances to proc that. So, but, the Paladin is healing the tank, so is that more useful? Less proc chance, but, it is going towards the tank, and it is going to be a big heal. You have to weigh the value out, the difference between, what's really good, what's not. Shamans, they really shine with it on AoE, not so much in any non-AoE fight. And even then, I think it's just slightly better. Holy, it's good on. Disc, we kind of covered, yeah.
Yeah, I pulled it up. It's on the screen. The viewers can see it now as well.
The problem I took with it was because he follows Anfall, and he thinks that all these guilds are going to be rolling double Holy Paladin, which, they may be. Who knows? I don't think you will be rolling double Holy Paladin into TOC or into ICC. That's ridiculous. Maybe at the early tiers, just to cheese them real easily, sure, because there are not a lot of AoE fights. But I wouldn't give double Holy Paladin Valanyr. That's dumb to me. I'd take the second Holy Paladin and wipe him off the list. Again, I'm moving Shaman below Holy, and Disc shouldn't even be on that list. I don't know why he's got it on there. So, in my opinion, Paladin Druid, you could swap them between 1 and 2. They could go either which way. And then your Holy Priest, and then your Resto Shaman last. That's how I would do it.
Yeah, once again, I don't pretty much, the way I look at it, and this is maybe, once again, maybe contradictory a little bit with all of the things we have said on the podcast so far. The way I look at it is, you don't need Valanyr for anything. Like, you don't need Valanyr to kill LOD, aka Lich King Heroic. You really don't.
Oh, no, yeah.
So the way I would reward Valanyr is, which guy can I trust? Right? This is just my 2 cents. First of all, which guy has the best attendance? Which guy gives me the least headache when it comes to giving out loot? Which healer is actually, performing well? And that guy is going to get the reward. The way I see it, it's an extra reward. The same thing that maybe we can touch upon a little bit, Shadowmourne. Like, all of these content creators are talking about Shadowmourne, and I'm like, can you please shut your traps with the Shadowmourne? What freaking Shadowmourne? Like, if you're progressing Lich King Heroic with Shadowmourne, right, and basing off the drop rate that we're going to have of the shards, by the way, for Shadowmourne, you're not going to have it unless you're in a really bad guild. Okay? If you're in a push guild, you're not going to have Shadowmourne. Like, everyone keeps mentioning it. It's a reward. Like, most likely, if you're in competent guild, the 5 or 10% buff is going to be out. Very unlikely that you're going to have your Shadowmourne ready. And you're going to be progressing Lich King Heroic. Like, you're going to reward your most dedicated DPS with it, right? You have Glorenzog Heroic, and even then, you have maces. I think what's the mace from top of my head? I remember item level 277. You can equip that. Sure, maybe not on Decay. Then you have Deadbringer's Axe from 10 man as well, Heroic, to 6-4 item level. There's plenty of good weapons out there that you can pick up from both 10 Heroic and 25 Heroic, right? maybe not so much 10 heroic, but for the intermediate transition into 25 heroic, sure. And that's kind of what bothers me is every single guy that uploads something on YouTube is talking about Shadowmon. Just stop it. Please, get some help. Stop talking about Shadowmon, right? Shadowmon on Warmane, Icecrown server, sure. Yeah, we can talk about full Bistless, but we're talking about Classic Wrath, just delete it. The same way I wouldn't necessarily approach Valanyr because you can always come back to Ulduar. You can always come back to Ulduar even during TOC. People are most likely going to clear that in one night. Bang it out, and the second night they're going to come back. They still want maybe a trinket from Algalon or something like that, which is really nice. Maybe they want a trinket from Yogg. Heck, maybe they even want to do Yogg 0 for a month. So the shards are going to be dropping. It's still an item, and people want to fill their schedule, right? And even then, you have parses. You will going to have parses, which means there's also that competitive element. Like, okay, we're doing Algalon. How much DPS can I smash? Or hey, we're doing XT. Yo, I want to try to snapshot even more on hard. Hey, I want to pump DPS here, stuff like that. You just want to play the game, right? You enjoy playing your class. You want to play the game. You're going to push it to the limit. You want, why not? So that's kind of why I think Valanyr maybe, doesn't necessarily fit the same role as Shadowmon when it comes to like being fully a reward. But I would say for the first one, I would give it to the healer I trust the most. Yeah, I don't know. If you disagree with me, you're more, I'm handing you over the mic. I had my own rant. If you disagreed, you're more than welcome to. As I said, it's just this is a raid leader point of view. Funky's coming from a pure healer with a bunch of experience point of view.
No, well, even when I was raid lead, even when I was GM my own guild, yeah, you're right. You give stuff. I don't know. You give your items depending on how you're doing your loot council. If you're doing loot council, or DKP, etc. I want to go to the guy who's going to show up, who knows his stuff, who's going to perform well. Clearly, even though it may be better on, let's say, a Resto Druid, if my Resto Shaman is showing up every single day and he's a better healer by far, I'm giving it to him. I don't even care. Like, here you go. You're here every day. You do your job. You do it well. You don't die to dumb mechanics. Yes, you're getting this. Clearly. But, there's... I don't know what I was going to say. Honestly, I hope they remove legendaries from the game. I really do. I think it would totally change everything. Remove them from the game.
Spicy.
Just remove them all. Because everyone's going to have a Valanyr. Everyone's going to have a Shadowmon. We've seen this on private servers. Just remove them. Why even have them? Take them out of the game.
Here's the thing. I agree on the Valanyr, but I'm not so much sure about Shadowmon. I personally would like to put a question mark on what's going to happen with Classic Wrath. I would like to see a competitive meta during ICC patch. Now, what I mean by that is I would like to see player base come together and actually start enjoying their classes and start enjoying performance and actually care about their characters, care about what they're doing. Hey, what am I doing with my stats, my hit, my expertise, my haste, my enchants, my gems, and really kind of start enjoying what they're doing and enjoy the process of getting a character, caring about it, and then performing in these raids. Because this is what ICC patch allows you to do that. Like tier 10, in my opinion, has always been the longest tier. Even on private servers, seasonal private servers has always been the longest tier, and this is what the player base likes the most. Everyone loves that tier 10, whether it's fully progressed or it's just fresh. There's always something about it, right? There's something unique. Even like Helion later on, all the GTS trinkets and stuff like that, when they start popping and dropping normal, and then you have heroic ones, stuff like that. I really hope that this time around servers are not just going to implode and die. Like, let's look at classic vanilla. Dead. It could not be more dead. Same thing is going to most likely happen in TBC. Guys, like, who's going to go back and clear BT when Classic Wrath is out? A guild? Maybe two? And I really think there's an option for that to happen. And maybe there's going to be too many Valanyrs, maybe not. Let's see. It is a spicy take. I understand where you're coming from when you say, hey, remove all Legos. Remove all the legendaries. I would maybe say maybe not for the first one, because I wouldn't want the servers to lose the hype, if you know what I mean. Kind of keep the hype there, because essentially we want the player base to enjoy the game. We love the game, right? This is why we're in this show in the first place, is for the passion and absolute love for the game. It's in my opinion, Wrath of the Lich King is not one of, but is the best iteration of the game by far, in terms of raids, the way classes work, talents, everything. It's really, really up there. And maybe for the first season, I would say maybe leave the Legos in, but for the second, I would most likely would like to see them being removed, kind of throw the wrench, and maybe change a couple of things for the season 2. Yeah, I don't know if you agree with that or not.
No, I agree. And, maybe leave things the way they are for the regular realms. But yeah, definitely the seasonal realms. Cut that stuff out. Cut the Shadowmourns out. Cut the legendaries out. I want to see people lose their minds with the legendaries being removed. But
all right. Now that we have covered healers, we have another slide coming in. Before we go there, want to add anything on this one? Healers, we think we covered it pretty much. Yeah. And here comes the next one. Here comes the beautiful one. Crypt Maker. Exactly. Someone in the Crypt Maker was the mace I was talking about from ICC 25, man. Thank you for reminding me. Now we're gonna be talking tank tier list and overall tier list, okay? Now, this has been made by also one of the beautiful, amazing content creators from private servers, called the Rugs. Now, I respect him enough. I'm not gonna take his whole video, but this is the tier list that he made. And I would like to open up with tanks. I'm gonna let Funky come in. This is like overall tier list. If he wants to pitch in as well, cover certain things. There's certain inaccuracies here. But let's start with the tanks. I'm gonna mark them now. Okay, we have a Paladin that is here in the S tier, and we have a Blood Decay that is in the B tier, and you have Druid that's in the C tier. And then you have Protection Warrior that's in the D tier. Okay, so let me emphasize this. Do not believe any of the people who tell you constantly Paladin is S, you should go Paladin, you should tank with 2 Paladins, you should tank with 3 Paladins. Whoever tells you that, and I'm willing to, on this statement, I'm going to put my whole career on the line, okay? I don't care, my whole reputation. Whichever person tells you that has no clue and has below room temperature IQ, okay? Now, here is how tanks work, okay? The way everyone looks at it, oh, Paladins have cooldowns, they're the best. Okay, sure, they have raid cooldowns. Now, we need to dive deeper. We need to have a deep dive into this. It is not as simple. It is not as one-dimensional, okay? The way people view it, okay, Pally cooldowns, the best. Yeah, amazing. Wah! They got reworked. Sure. I'm just gonna deep dive into it. I hope you got ready for this ride with me. Paladin is the best all-around tank by far. Now, what do I mean by all-around tank? If you look at all of the aspects, okay, like, bear with me for a moment. Like, I'm gonna drive, like, make a nice little pentagon, okay? So all around tank is you have 5 stats. Now we can say you have CDs here. We can say you have mobility, you have single target threats. You have single target threats on one. You have AoE threats on another, and then you have CDs, okay? I have 2 CDs, but what I mean is like utility. Let's put it utility, okay? It's like I can even expand this even more. I can make an octagon if I want to, right? And what we also need to add here is the amount of input each class requires. You can't just say Paladin is the best. They're best for what? For what are the best? Now, they're the best off tanks in the game by far, right? If you think about it, like, let's look at like LOD. Pretty sure you would agree with this, that for tanking the shambling horrors, they're amazing tanks, absolutely, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
absolutely amazing. They're tanking the shambling horror over there. Hey, taunt it, smack it, pull it up. Do you want to tank it without ghouls? Perfect. Do you want to tank it with ghouls? Perfect. You want to stun it? Perfect. You have Dsuck? Amazing. You have Hand of Sacrifice? Amazing. Now, judging on this tier list, you're supposed to do Heroic Lich King with 2 of them. Now, in which universe is that going to happen? Okay, so let's start talking about single target threat. Newsflash. Paladin is not best in the single target threat. They're like, if we're gonna have a marker, Paladin is maybe like 50% there. Okay? In terms of CDs, they're like also kind of like they have DP, right? But if you're gonna talk about actual CDs, like personal CDs, Blood Decay is like, I mean, hello? Obsidian Sanctum 3 Drakes, Flame Breath, boom, Anti-Magic Shell. What now? Amazing, good. Like, you're progging Obsidian Sanctum, but I thought like S Paladin is tier. Let's talk about bear tanks. Like, they're all the bottom in the sea. I'm like, hello, what? Like, let's put it into perspective. You're doing TOC. We're doing Trial of Crusade. Anub, either normal or heroic. You're not gonna put Protection Paladin on the boss. Why are you running 2 Protection Paladins? You're gonna put a freaking bear on Anub, dude. He's gonna smack that. He's gonna smack the living face out of it because it has by far better single target threat. It's like, you can't just say Paladin is S tier. Then again, in terms of AoE, well, depends. Are we talking about 2 targets? Are we talking 3, 4, 5, 6, 10? Are we talking 15? Are we talking 100? Now, here's the thing. If we're talking 100, let's say you're doing Onyxia and there's 100 whelps, well, guess what? Consecration doesn't have an AoE cap. I mean, your bear isn't going to do anything there, so sure. But, like, your paladin is going to pop off. And then again, like, your DK has diseases. He's going to spread that, and especially if there's unholy that can improve those disease damage, like, your blood is going to be doing insane AoE on those whelps. Just an example, not that Onyxia matters in the slightest. So, like, if you look at all of this, like, let's say mobility, like, well, in terms of mobility, like, Protection Paladin is actually kind of garbo. They have 50% movement speed increase, okay? They have 15% movement speed, but that's about it. Like, don't get me wrong, DK doesn't have much either, right? But then again, you can kind of say, okay, partially mobility on certain adds from a DK, they can compensate that with a Death Grip. And then, okay, Feral has a charge. And then, okay, what else? Well, guess what? Warrior has a charge as well. So they can use that. So in terms of mobility, they're not the best. So, like, you can't say that Protection Paladin is S tier. Yes, they're amazing, but they're not, like, this is completely delusional in every shape, way, or form. Then as way as utility, like, sure, like, you don't need double D-Sex. Like, where are you gonna need? Don't get me wrong, double D-Sex are nice, but you can get it from your holy. And if you need a triple one, just let your let your ret respec. Like, your ret doesn't need to go aura mastery for that specific fight. Hey, if you really need a third D-Sec, just get it from a ret. And then, even on top of that, like, I can't emphasize enough, the single target threat, Icy Touch spam from Blood Decay, it is that simple. Like, Killing Machine proc, boom, Icy Touch later on, you're not taking threat. Meanwhile, you have DPS popping off, bro, your paladin is, like, you're losing your mind, dude. You can execute your 969 rotation as good as you want, you are never catching up to a DK, ever, dude. Ever. There is no way in hell. You need to look at the threat meters. You need to solve the dudes. You're like, oh my god, man. Like, I'm not having a good time at all. I can also see, like, some people are mentioning, like, you know, you can solo tank Lich King as a paladin. True. You can do that as a warrior. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't like warriors. Personally, I don't like warriors because they don't bring much. But you don't like, if anything, like here, if you want to do it, like the way I would put it is Paladin, DK, and freaking Feral, they're all amazing tanks, and maybe a step below is the Warrior. Now, here is the big distinction. Are you in a hardcore guild? Yeah, you probably don't want to bring a Warrior. Are you in, hey, I just want to clear content, I need a tank that is not a clicker and a keyboard turner? Hey, yeah, sure, bring a Warrior. So here's the issue. Why does it get such a bad rep? Now, once again, if Paladin is such an S tier, what are they doing on General Vezax in Ulduar? First of all, they have no interrupt, okay, especially if you're doing 10-man hard mode. And if you care about clearing all content, even 25-man hard mode, like, why are you even tanking General Vezax? There's like so many things. Like, what are you doing there, dude? You have nothing to do there. I've seen, and the same person that has made this tier list is tanking General Vezax on hard mode as a Paladin, and it's a complete, absolute shit show. It does not work. It is absolutely hilariously horrible. Paladins should not be tanking Vezax. If you want to do things competently, you're going to put the Blood Decay there. Heck, even the Protection Warrior is 10 times better on that fight. So it all, like, once again, you can't. I love Protection Paladins to death, bro. I'm playing one all the time. I couldn't play more of them. I'm very much biased when it comes to that. But you don't put them in S tier. Like, any self-respecting raider / player / content creator / whatever that has at least cleared every raid twice and is clairvoyant about things, you're not putting it in the S tier, man. This is just nonsensical. These tier lists are absolute freaking garbage. They're beyond garbage. And whoever makes this tier list is beyond delusional. Once again, I have written a simple pentagon, or drew up a simple pentagon. In fact, it should be an octagon. Let's even talk about how difficult each tank is to play. You can't even compare, like, you need vastly more knowledge and experience to play a Blood Decay than you need like a Feral Druid. Feral Druid is not as interactive, right? There's a lot of, like, for example, if the absorb portion that you get as Feral just happens naturally, right? And then you have something like a Decay, where, hey, you actually kind of need to know what you're doing with your runes and your runic power. First of all, you have Glyph of Death Strike. You can't really just go like, herp-a-derp, here's a death coil, look at me. Like, you need to actually care about what are my runic power values, what's happening with the fight, when do I need the runic power, what's the sweet spot of the runic power, what's the cooldown of my runes, when is the damage coming in, when should I death strike, what about my hit and expertise, when does it matter, when does it not? It's so much more matters for DK than it does, for example, for a Paladin. That Paladin ends up being the one who's like herp-a-derp here, like 969 rotation, I don't care, yay. But it's just like, as I said, sorry for the long rant, I apologize to the viewers and thank you for sticking so much. I really hope I can get my point across, is like, it's not like this. It really is not. And on this point, I would really like to hear something from Funky as well.
Yeah, no, just looking at the tier list, I mean, there's so much. And we went and watched a little bit of this video just to make sure this wasn't Nax tier before we went live today. He doesn't really mention what this is for. This is kind of like an overall tier 7 through tier 10 kind of thing. Why is, I mean, look, he's got, okay, you want to talk about tanks? He's got Bear down here in C. Are you kidding me? Bear tanks should be way higher. You got Blood Tank down here in B. They should be way higher. In terms of single target, Bear and Blood DK should be at the top. Why is our Fury Warrior down in C tier? I get Fury's warriors in general kind of are just spam Sunder bots in tier 7 and 8, but how is it below arms? Are you what is he doing? Sub Rogue at B tier above Resto Shaman and Feral Tank?
I think that's that one's combat. I think that's the icon for combat and assassination.
Is it?
Yeah.
Jesus. Still, why is it so? Why is that so low? Why is it? Why are those three? Why is Feral Tank, Resto Shaman, and Fury Warrior below an Elemental Shaman, which is in B tier? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Ellie all the way up in A tier. Both Affliction and Demonology are in S tier. No. I don't know where he keeps coming up with Affliction. And Demo doing so well. Yeah, okay, in early tiers, I want to say it's Demonology is really good in the early tiers. But later on, it drops down. Affliction is never going to be your top ranked DPS. I don't know why it's in S tier. Yeah, it's awesome and fun to play, but and not to brag or boast, I probably know one of the best Affliction. The two best Warlocks that I know are Murfin, which is who I've raided with for years and know him very well. I actually just spoke to him yesterday, and that's who Ruggs is using for his Warlock guide video, by the way, which is hilarious. And I did ask Murfin about that. He did not give him permission to use that video, but he did say, hey, if anybody wants to use my content, go for it. But yeah, anyways, that's a whole other story for another day. And the best Affliction Warlock I've ever seen play is XK. I guarantee you that they, and even both of them have said, Warlock is not S tier. I don't know where he's coming up with this. The two best Warlock players I know wouldn't put their own class in S tier. That's wrong. You've got Elemental Shaman. Ret, sure, I guess at A tier. Boomkin at A tier? No. This whole list
kind of depends.
So, yeah, I mean, look, I can tell you right now, though, in the C tier, Feral Bear, Restoration Shaman and Arms Warrior are way too low.
Here is what I think. I think that this was heavily biased by tier 7 patch and was not disclosed as such. Right? When this tier list was made, arguments were being made like Unholy is S tier and then tier 9 set bonus is being mentioned. But there's clear bias when it comes to like Nax. But like also I don't get it. Like what's going on here? Like why is like Fire Mage here and Arcane is here, right? If this is a Nax tier patch, like what's going on here, dude? Right? Are we talking like super late Nax, like ultra late Nax? Like sure. Maybe do you want to play with fire? Like you're not going fire right into Nax. What's going on here, dude? And then you have like there's a lot of weird stuff going on here. So there's a lot of inaccuracies. So like, I don't know. I guess maybe early in the Resto Shaman, super early going into tier 7. If you're playing ultra fresh and you have no haste whatsoever, yeah. But like Resto Shaman, when they're actually, geared up, heck no. How can you even remotely put Resto Shaman in C tier is beyond me. Like they bring so much, man. They bring so much to the table. So I don't know. Do you want to pitch in on that one?
Me and Teamy had this discussion the other day. If you're not familiar with Teamy, he's the shaman god of everything, and he's my numbers cruncher. But like he brought up, I believe, I don't want to misquote him, but he did bring this up, saying how guilds are just really underestimating Earthshield and Tidal Wave and how it works with Tidal Wave procs. Like, sure, yeah, you're not going to be having Lesser Healing Wave capped at 1 second global cooldown, but it should be still quick enough where it's useful. And Earthshield is really useful. It really is. I don't think people understand how effective that can be. And, you're still working with Riptide, you're still Lesser Healing Wave. Sure, Chain Heal might take a while to cast, but so is everything else. It's not like your Holy or your Holy Paladin's going to be casting Holy Lights at 1.2 seconds either at the early tiers. Haste just doesn't exist there at the early tiers for a lot of these classes. So everyone's going to be behind the curve, so to speak, on when the haste levels are going to be at come like tier 9, tier 10, clearly. So putting Shaman that low, I really haven't seen them, Ruggs or Anfall or any of those guys play with the Resto Shaman, and none of them have been what I would consider good. So yeah, for them to put Resto Shaman in C tier, I'd bump them up. I think they're too low. I'd bump them up, just on the fact of what they can do, what they can bring, their utility. They're too low for me.
No, of course, like mana tide is absolutely insane as well and has its implications. Once again, when we're doing this podcast, I don't want to talk about healers so much simply because I want to give that podium to you. And more so talking about someone, who's been tanking for a while. And when I see this, it's like, as I said, I want to shill for Prot Paladin, but this just boggles my mind. Specifically, like, sure, Warrior, like, once again, I had said multiple times, Warrior is, like, really not a good tank, but it depends. Do you want to push content? Do you want to be a pusher? Don't take a Warrior. You just want to clear con and put them on a roster. You can clear anything with a Warrior. Heck, you can solo tank LOD as a Warrior. It has been done, right? Which brings me to another point. Specifically, what really bothers me about this is they're like, the same person mentions something like this. Here is a massive inconsistency, and here is something that just boggles my mind. He mentions warriors are complete garbage, and then in another vid, he mentions how warriors can tank Anubarak ads. Now, pay attention to this, okay? Now, here's like story time with Fark. This is a very bad debuff, okay? In this video that was being shown, here's a small little snippet. There's 3 stacks of this debuff on this warrior. Okay, so now let me show you why is this bad, okay? Let's go step by step together on a small little journey. And I'll show you why is this complete garbage. She says he has a friend who is able to tank. This is exposed weakness. Read it off the screen for you. Often applied on melee swing by the Anubarak ads, increases physical damage taken by target by 25%, stacks up to 9 times, equals 225% overall. Now, there's 4 ads coming out all the time on that fight, okay? All the freaking time. They're gonna be smacking you. You need full avoidance, you need 101.6%. Now, before one of you says, Fark, it's 102.4. Yes, it's 102.4 for a target. That is 3 levels above you. That was, if you're playing TBC, that's level 70, 73. If you're playing Rat, it's 80, 83. The formula stays the same. Plus 3, you need 102.4 overall of avoidance cap. But the ads are level 92, which means that you can take 101.6 avoidance cap as well. Naturally, you need to count in Horn of Winter or the totem that gives you agility, etc., etc. And there's also importance that we are also talking about Ancestral Fortitude. We're talking about private servers where they're buffed. Well, you're gonna need this as well. It also depends on the gear you set, the gear you have, the gear set you're using. You might actually need 100% uptime on Demo Shout. You might need 100% uptime of Ancestral Fortitude for Shamans. It's like really important for these fights. And then, like, someone says, oh, critical block. Also, if someone wants to, talk about this, let me zoom in. Oh, but Fark, warriors have critical block. Cute, it is meaningless. Critical block, for what I'm about to display, means absolutely nothing. It means that 60% of your blocks will be double. You don't care about that. All that matters is consistency, okay? If you're tanking ads on a noob, all that matters is consistency. So, and here what I want to show you is, here is a full video, how it's actually supposed to look like by a competent tank that actually knows how to do it. So first of all, let's go step by step. The example being used previously was a warrior. Oh, they can block, they can retaliate. Here is a reason why I would take Paladin. For all the wrong reasons that the other would not, right? You would not want to take a warrior, in my opinion. They have Seal of Command, okay? By the way, if you're following WarcraftTavern, I highly doubt they even have Seal of Command there. Might not, they might have changed it. It is absolutely amazing. Like, as I said, you can see it here. This is, I'll link in the description later on. This is from a Paladin that played on Frostmourne 1. Seal of Command is absolutely goddamn amazing, okay? It absolutely smacks, and specifically on this fight, it's a godsend. But yeah, let's continue into the fight. So as you see, we're going deeper into the fight. The ads are about to spawn. The ads are coming. They have 3 hunters, which you can see here. He taunts one. You have 1, 2, 3. There are 3 MDs in the fight. So before someone says, oh, bear or warrior or something, you have 3 hunters. It's fine. don't worry about it. They all get pulled up. Here's another segment that you can pay attention. Pay attention to this. This is something that also your favorite guide making cesspool website doesn't show you. I have also highlighted that. Look at Reckoning. It's proccing all the time. Okay, now it's Devotion Hour, but it's gonna proc again. See, Reckoning is up, and it's proccing all the time. And guess what? Reckoning actually interacts really well with Seal of Command. So this dude is actually pumping even more than that warrior. This paladin right there is absolutely smashing these ads. Also pay attention to this. This is also something that I wanted to cover. If you see over here, that buff is attack speed, okay? That means that each ad has bloodlust. Put it in perspective, each ad is giving another ad bloodlust that's around it, okay? So these ads are smashing all the time. This is why your 60% chance to double block doesn't matter. And look how this look what continues happening, right? More ads are coming. There you go. He also, if you didn't pick up on that, he stunned the ads because there was a shadow struck happening. Yeah, sure, you can stun it as a warrior, but you do it as paladin really well. Pay attention to this now. Look how it expands. They're attacking even more. Your critical block doesn't matter. So here's my issue with these examples are, oh, look how good warrior is in this fight. They're really amazing. No, it's actually paladin is amazing on this fight. But where paladin is not amazing, you should be taking warrior and you're not showcasing that in the first place. Now, once again, let me pause the video. Take a look here. You can see it right here. Right there, guys. Right there. Check this out. This protection paladin is pumping 9,200 DPS. Okay, and this is details. This is actual, like, what you would get in Warcraft logs or as parses. This is actual DPS. This is how details use it. This is your paladin. This is your protection paladin. Like, debatably, you can even optimize maybe certain thing or two with more gear later on. Maybe if he gets a better weapon or something like that, he could even pump even more. You could easily bump that to 10,000. So it's like the example that you use of a protection warrior being better than paladin is wrong, because you can look at him. Like, he is absolutely smashing these ads. And this is the exact example I also wanted to see. Like, at no point in time, paying attention to the debuffs, at no point in time does a single auto attack land. There is not a single auto attack that lands on this person. And mind you, this is not like a crazy advertised guild. This is just your, hey, we are a guild, we want to clear everything that there is on Warmane Frostmourne 1 and let's do it. And there is going to be an amazing point in time as well. I'm going to play the video until the end. As I said, I'll link it in the description to credit the author. I really like this video. It really captures the fight really well. And once again, look, at no point does he ever receive the exposed weakness debuff. So it's like, here's my issue. How can you say warriors are garbage? Showcase, oh yeah, no, JK, warriors are not garbage. Dude, this is not the hill you want to die on, trust me, buddy. Warrior is not better in this situation. Just as I said, pay attention. Like, look at this now. Here's where I'm going to show you the last phase. Look at how low they're letting him go, and he's never taking the debuff. Look at this. Look at the amount of trust there. Look at his debuff. He's not taking a single exposed weakness. There is not a single hit landing on this paladin, right? And this is the strat, also for those that don't know what we're talking about. This is Anub Heroic. This is Anub 25 Heroic mode, right? This is what we're talking about. This is kind of like, you could say, this is the Lich King of TOC patch, right? As you can see, like, he is not taking a single stack of exposed weakness. And they're even, look at this guy's HP. They're even letting him go super low. This is insane. When I saw this, like, I was just, wow. Like, look at his HP. Okay, the couple of heals are going through now. but they really trust this spell, and this is just beautiful. This is amazing. I love to watch this. Look at these debuffs, man. This is just beautiful to see. Once again, I'm linking the video in the description, guys. If you're watching this later on, I'm gonna also link it in the chat on Twitch. I'm putting in the description. I highly advise everyone to check this. This is a beautiful kill, in my opinion. This is like really, really clean, really beautiful kill of Anub 25 Heroic. It's super clean, in my opinion. As I said, not a single stack goes through. And I just wanted to showcase it on our podcast so that you can see, there's time and place for everything, really. Can a warrior do this? Yes. Is Paladin better? Well, watch it yourself. I don't know. If you're going to pull an example where your warrior is getting stacks and your Paladin is doing it clean, and I think, though, it's an obvious answer. If we're going to be pulling examples like that. Funky, do you have anything to add on this topic? I went on a massive...
No, just that, you clearly know more about tanking than I do. I know last time I really tanked that content, it was retail, so... Yeah. But to answer the other point, that the Boomkin link that we put into the Twitch chat earlier...
Link.
Yeah. What was the question here? I don't even know what the original question was. But if this is for Paladin, you're not going to be gemming 23 spell power for Paladin. You're not going to be gemming Intellect either at tier 10.
No, that was for Boomkin, yeah.
Oh, for Boomkin?
Yeah.
No, you want spell power over Intellect. Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
That was a Boomkin. That was for Boomkin, yeah, where apparently you're supposed to gem Intellect as a Boomkin.
No. No. I don't have the time.
Should I pull
I don't
it
have
up?
the time or the patience to go over all that. But no, that is wrong.
This is the first time I hear about it, but yeah, it's an interesting concept that someone would say that you should gem Intellect as Boomkin. It's kind of out there, to be honest. Okay, yeah, I see now. Basically, there was no question. There is pretty much someone on WarcraftTavern is saying that you should gem Intellect as a Boomkin, and they're kind of stating it as math. You know what? I'm just going to pull it up for a sec. Massive disclaimer, not a Boomkin player in the slightest, but I'll put it up on the screen. Never have ever heard about a Boomkin ever doing that, but here, just so that people know what we're talking about and what is being talked about. Basically, what this WarcraftTavern is saying is that you should stack Intellect gems because Intellect gems give you more spell power than spell power. And that's like interesting. I've never heard of it, but yeah, if you want to pitch in on that, you want to.
No, I don't even want to. My God, I don't have time to dissect every single thing here, but it's just know it's all crap.
There you go. It is mathematical diarrhea.
I love these people who try to provide math behind their reasonings, and they don't. They always screw it up. They always talk about, if you look at it and you're like, wow, this guy really breaks it down. He must know what he's talking about. He's talking about exponential increases and dream state, all the talents for improved mark of the wild, blah, blah, blah. And they come up with these crazy math ideas that equal something that you have, even as a theory craft, you have to go back and like, okay, where are you getting this from? And you have to break it down and be like, no, what are you talking about? Like it happens all the time. Restoration Druid, Restoration Shaman, on a ton of classes, rogues, everything. So it's not the first time we've seen somebody give math and they just give their improper math with reasons. And they might have reasons. They might say a whole bunch of stuff, show you math, but it's just wrong.
Yeah, it's we talked about it a little bit. It is beyond frustrating to watch so much content pop up out of nowhere, and then you're like, okay, which servers are these people playing on? And then you realize, okay, well, there's half of the content creators have not even touched the private server at all. And then you have another let's say I'm just, putting a number out there out of my head. Another 30% of those content creators as well have never touched Warmane. And here's the thing, as much, I'm not saying Warmane is the greatest and the best and, above everything, but hey, guys, Whitemane, not gonna lie, when it comes to actually, making sure that things stay buffed but blizz-like at the same time, Whitemane does a fucking poor job of doing that. Really bad job, especially playing on Synergy now. As much as I enjoy playing there because of certain other things they have implemented into the game, their scripting is god awful. The way they buff and nerf things it's sometimes you look at these encounters and it's just nonsensical. It is just completely nonsensical the way they buff and nerf things, and just you shake my hand. It's like, why are you doing this? Why does Aureliah for no reason have 32 million HP in Uldar 25? Like they just buffed the boss's HP by times 10, not times 10, but like times 5 for no reason. The boss drops no significant loot. It is not a memorable boss. If anything, it's trash boss in between with one gimmick. Why are you buffing this boss to have same HP as a Lich King Heroic 10-man? It is beyond pointless. So that's kind of like once again, like Warmane is not the perfect answer to everything, but in my opinion, if you never played on Warmane and seen all of the encounters there and you're making content just based off, other servers that you played in the past, then I press X for doubt, because from what I've seen from other people putting out there as servers, it's pretty bad, dude, because this makes no sense, man. Especially if we're talking about Classic Wrath, like once again, put everything into perspective. Are we talking about Classic Wrath, right? Like, if we're talking about Classic Wrath, then why does nobody even bring out the fact that the person who gets Hysteria is gonna be parsing better? I mean, what's the point there, right? If you're talking about parsing, and not even a single person ever mentions, hey, what if you get 2 Hysterias? Like, sure, you can see it now on logs. If you get like Innervates or Bloodlust as a mage, it shows up, but there's still the valid parses, right? There's still a thing. How can you say Paladin is S tier? Well, if we're gonna look from single target point of view, hey, Paladin is not S tier, Blood is even more S tier. Like, what doesn't matter who's tanking Kologan? Who cares? Ignore the arms, just kill the grip, kill the chest. Unless like somehow, probably actually the biggest parse way is gonna be Cleave, and then somehow handle the ads. But yeah, like Blood Decay factually is gonna end up being better for a parsing push meta, because a single individual is gonna be doing that much more damage. Heck, if let's say if you really want to be a Dark Lord Sith, you could sell your Hysteria to a raider each week and be like, hey, I'm accepting gold bids. Whoever gives me the most gold this week gets a Hysteria. Or something stupid like that, right? So it's kind of funny to hear, like, what are we talking about? Like, once again, it's not going to be buffed content, man. Even if it's pre-nerf, they need to do drastical changes. They don't have the resources for that. TBC is in shambles. Season of Mastery is in shambles and has been. I mean, it's just a massive clown fiesta, and it really pains me to see like people talk about certain things, making these tanking tier lists that make no sense. Which tanking tier list are, like, once again, like, who is gonna be what? We're talking super buffed content where the boss is gonna hit you for 35k white swing. Guess what? You're not putting a prot pally, right? Because they don't have the same HP as your bear. Right, if a boss in Uldor is hitting you 35k every swing, and it's ultra buffed, the hardest content ever, unimaginable, where you need 2 holy paladins, you're not putting protection paladin against it. You're putting your bear with insane stamina stacking and EHP values and stuff like that. So that's, once again, to reiterate on that point, like these tier lists, that's what we wanted to showcase. That's what we prepared. I wanted to chip in as well. I wanted to get in funky on the healing tier list that, in my opinion, as a raid leader, then they make no sense. I wanted to showcase the tanking tier list that make no sense. The arguments that people are making about tanking, they make no sense. Anyway, guys, if you have a question for Funky or me or both of us, throw them in the chat now. Funky, do you have anything else? Would you like to add?
No, just I think you touched on it a little bit ago, but talking about just these lists, and you mentioned talking about synergy, white main,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. A lot of these, I think a lot of people look at these servers and they're talking about, we've mentioned Anfall, Rugs, and these players like that. A lot of these people that play there, they're playing on realms that have really crazy custom scripts. I think that's where Anfall's misconception, a lot of his stuff where he's talking about double disc priest, or Ruggs is talking about double HPAL. Sure, maybe that works on these custom scripted servers, but you're not going to need that on the classic version of what's coming. You're not going to need that. Even if they do, like you said earlier, buff all bosses by 100% HP. You're not going to roll double HPAL. You're not going to roll double disc on Lich King. That's insanity. And a lot of these people are saying, "Well, I've got a realm first, or I've done this, or I've done that." You've done it, and again, this is not to praise Warmane. I can't stand Warmane. I can't stand the staff there. But their scripting is far superior to these other realms. Yeah. It's not even close. It's going to be more towards what we are going to be playing than anything else out there currently. And yeah, it does have some stuff that's broken. We know that. But for the majority of the private server community out there, their Ice Crown realm is the closest thing to what Blizzard's probably going to launch that you'll be able to play on, which changes the entire experience, changes everything that these people say. And I would highly suggest you do some research into who's telling you these things. If this person that's telling you, like Toyhouze, go look at his content. What has he done? Has this guy ever done DK? He's got we didn't even cover that. He's got a DK guide out. I think we're covering that in our next podcast. Class-specific guides.
We'll see,
yeah. So, real quick, he's got a DK guide out there where he's doing the whole thing in level 69. You and I have talked about it, clearly. But, how are you doing this guide at level 69? Like, what are you talking about? Have you ever experienced Death Knight at level 80? Have these people that are making this content ever experienced the classes or the Scotty J and Toyhouze and Gnev, all these guys? Have they ever experienced it playing that class at level 80, for one? Number two, at what level have you played it at? And number three, what server have you played it at? Sure, you can get a realm first on a server that has zero competition, like an Anfall. Yeah, okay, walk around with your head high. I got 2 realm first, and I know what I'm talking about. You can keep talking about whatever you're talking about, but I've got a realm first. Fantastic for you. FO, first of all, because your realm first mean nothing. They're against nobody, and half the time you were getting beat through there, so if you were that good, you would have raffle stomped your competition, and you didn't. So just please, guys, if you're going through here and you're on YouTube or you're searching something up, go do some research on the actual person that's saying these things. Just don't, first video, this has got 10,000 or 100,000 views. This must be right. This guy knows what he's talking about. Chances are, 9 times out of 10, they don't.
Here is what I was also would like to say. Like, elitist jerks back in the day were also really amazing, and predominantly their math is still correct, right? Like, for example, for Retri Paladins, if you look at a lot of the stuff, even like for Protection Paladins, a lot of the stuff still holds water. It's still true. You just need to use Wayback Machine. You need to just use an archive page. Yeah, exactly. Even in chat, someone is saying Wayback Machine is your friend. I could not agree more. Like, the math is there. People have calculated this 13, 14 years ago. So what surprises me is, even actually, when I was in the position where I had to like come up with the block set, I dug up certain posts from 2009 about solo tanking Anub ads, for example, which has been a big thing, right? You just have to do it on Warmane, specifically Frostmourne. You just have to have a block set. There's no other way around it. And I was also seeing, what have people struggled with, what have people come up with back in the day. And this has been like done by people. Like, Protection Paladins have done this back in the day, and a lot of this stuff has been perfected on Warmane. So it's really kind of I wouldn't say surprising. I would say it is inappropriate to, in my opinion, play on a objectively inferior server and then base facts about classes and specs on that.
Well, and not to cut you off real quick here,
yeah, go for it.
As we've gone through, and we're starting to go back through the tier list, obviously, when we're coming up with this new guide. And a lot of the stuff in the elitist jerk stuff, like there's, like you said, the math, and like I've said this too, the math is pretty much valid. Okay, there's not a whole lot in the math that's going to be off, at least not that I've encountered when you're discussing like haste values for Restoration Druid. It's still the same. But as far as what's best in slot, what talents you should choose, things like that, a lot of that stuff is way off. So don't take elitist jerks for pretty much the math side of it. When you're coming up with BIS lists, talents, gems, anything like that, because for Resto Druid, you go look it up, they're all wrong. Everything else is wrong besides the math. So stick to the math side of things, ignore pretty much everything else in there. I mean, there's for example, a 10-page discussion about Restoration Druid and what's better in 10-man, Glyph of Healing Touch or Rapid Rejuvenation. Like, who cares? It's 10-man. They had a 3-month conversation about it. Just useless information.
Maybe we can touch upon BIS lists. I have my own set on opinions on the Sims and BIS lists that have recently started popping out of nowhere. Maybe we can do it for another episode. There has been a question, what is ideal 10-man raid setup? You know what, I'm going to ignore Nax completely because that is irrelevant. So I'm going to kind of base this based on, like, I would say TOC/Old War, more or less, and I'll let you go first, Funky. What do you say for your 10-man raid setup? What would you bring?
10-man raid. Prop Paladin.
Mm-hmm.
Either Prop Paladin, Holy Paladin.
Yeah.
For ICC?
ICC or TOC, something along those lines.
Can I have a Holy Priest that would switch to Disc at Lich King? That'd probably be the most ideal for healer setup. Holy Paladin, Disc Priest / Holy Priest. Paladin tank, your other tank, if you're rolling 2 tanks, either Blood or Feral, then I want probably some kind of Shaman. LE enhanced, doesn't matter. Or you could take Shaman Healer as well, in case you didn't want to have the disc. So 1 Shaman, doesn't matter which class, to be honest. Probably a Boomkin. Hunter, Rogue, Warrior, and a Lock.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. I don't know what I'm at exactly. I think that's 6 DPS, 2 healers, and 2 tanks. I think that's 10.
Well, for ICC, at least from my experience, mages haven't done too hot in the 10-mans. Absolutely amazing in 25. In the 10-mans, mages have not done too hot. Not that they can't, but like super early going into ICC, they haven't really been the heavy punchers. So I wouldn't put mage there. I would take a Prot Pal with red off spec. I would take a Blood Decay. With Frost off spec, I would take a Marksman Hunter. That way you get to keep 20% haste and you don't need to worry about the totem. Holy Paladin would be there for sure as well, considering you do want to have that. You want to have both buffs. You want to cover JOL and JOW. You want to cover both. Replenishment probably would come from a Shadow Priest. I would say, yeah, I would also take a Warlock, probably a Warrior and a Rogue. Maybe the only iteration that I would have is I would even maybe for a 10-man, I don't think it's that drastic. I would consider taking a Resto Shaman. I don't think they're that bad. I think as long as you have Holy, any other healer will do. I don't think it's that bad. Now you can look at fight to fight base. Fight to fight. I don't know, like Freya, for example, the way I did it recently was 1 tank, 3 healers, right? So we would have an Unholy Decay. He didn't go for us, he went Unholy. We would solo tank Freya, and then we would have Holy Paladin, Resto Druid, Resto Shaman, simply because the Stomps are doing just that much damage and they're buffed. And then, like, if you look at DOC, for example, if you really want to do Lord Jaraxxus, you can solo tank, solo heal that. quite comfortably with the Prot and a Holy Paladin. And then Fire Mage is really good because they get to spell steal the buff from Lord Jaraxxus. So that's like, I would say TOC. I would say Fire Mage has a little bit more value on certain fights like Lord Jaraxxus. Primarily, they're not also that bad on Anub. I mean, there is some skill element when it comes to spikes with Ice Block that can also be cheesed if you're really good at it. You know, Living Bomb, Living Bomb is not the worst thing as well. If you know how to use it, that's for TOC. For ICC, yeah, I don't think Fire Mage would fit there. But pretty much, I would say, yeah, the same, except maybe I don't put that much emphasis on Holy Priest personally. I would be fine with the Resto Shaman and the Shadow Priest in that slot. I don't think it's that impactful. I don't think they're going to be carrying anyway. Okay, it's kind of filler slot. Yeah, that's my 2 cents. Funky.
Yeah.
Any complaints about that statement from you?
No, if when you brought up Mage, I did forget about Mage. I mean, you could throw him in there too. Honestly, you want probably in the most optimal setup: 2 healers, 2 tanks. I don't know, 3 to 4 ranged, and then 3 to 4 melee. Really, you could probably even roll. I'd probably roll maybe a little less melee, but probably 4 range, 2 melee.
Yeah, 4 range,
whatever.
2 melee, kind of like that. Then maybe I have a Fury, and a Rogue. Fury and the Rogue, yeah, and you probably. If we're talking about, like, it also depends on what, right? If we're talking, you could also fit in Red if you really, really want to. You could, but the thing is, you don't really need that Red for the 10-man. They really fit well for the 25, but in my opinion, for the 10-man, they don't. You could, of course, but once again, I have an empty canvas and I'm thinking, hey, what do you want to bring? Then, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff's interchangeable. I mean, are there preferred perfect comp for 10-man? No. I'd say you can get more exact in 25 of close to like the pure or best comp than you can in a 10-man. 10-man, you're going to be missing something that you're like, man, I would really like to have that, but if I lose that, or if I give that up, then I lose this class, or so it's 10-man's a little bit harder.
And there was also a question, like, if we both put Prot Paladin, yeah, but we also put Blood Decay and Feral. Like, you're not taking 2 Prots. Like, you're gonna need your Blood Decay or Feral. That is a need. Like, let's say you're doing Anub 10-man, right? The question was about 10-man, since we're doing like kind of viewer interaction now. If you're doing Anub Barak, there's absolutely no point in having, 0 point in having Feral on the ads or another Prot. So that's where it comes on. Also, like, look at what Feral can bring and not innovate on that fight. Blood Decay is also amazing with CDs. I personally tanked everything with Feral, and I can only speak well about Feral, and it has worked for us like a charm. The reason why Feral was subbed for a Boomkin, as in he would spec, is because we were pushing. For example, Feral could not tank the Jaraxxus fight as comfortably as I could on my Prot. That's again where it comes to the toolkit. But then again, no one can do it as comfortably as Prot. And then you look at like Ice Howl. Well, Feral does Ice Howl a bit better than Prot. Both can do it, but Feral is a bit more comfortable. Comfortable there. Once again, you don't, for the beasts, you don't need Protection Paladin there. You really don't. Everything that there is to be offered can be provided by someone else. For the first boss, you don't need Prot Paladin there. They start shining on Lord Jaraxxus specifically now, where we're talking about TOC. The PvP fight, the factions fight, that's irrelevant. That's even pointless to speak about. Twin Valkyrs are also, they really don't matter. It's more so like, hey, are you getting hit by the wrong orbs, or are you getting hit by correct orbs? And are you failing the one mechanic there is? So that's kind of like, if you're looking at DOC, it's like realistically 3 fights. On 2 of them, Paladin is really good. like specifically Anub for the ads, and then Jaraxxus, you can really solo tank it. Seal of Command, Hammer of Wrath, like you get some Infernals hopping out. You will get some Infernals, unless like the HP of the volcano that spawns, for example, is so low that it insta dies, but I can't envision that happening. For ICC as well, they're, you know, let's say Lord Marvgar does not matter. I just want to run it down quick. Lord Margot doesn't matter. They're really good for picking up ads, but then again, ads don't matter there. If you really want to have a better tank, maybe a decay would be nice. For Lady Death Whisper, Gunship is a meme. Gunship is a meme in its entirety. Every tank does fine on the what's it face. It's like the cheese that happens on Saurfang. The cheese that happens on Saurfang comes from the Red and Holy. So the way you use the eye, so that way it doesn't even matter. Kind of because you can cheese the fight completely. And then you look at Festergut and Rotface. Well, yeah, sure, Feral is probably bad for Rotface. Not bad. But like Paladin can kite it around the circle as well. Which I did. I did it on a DK, I did it on a Paladin. I don't know, both can do it equally. Rotface doesn't really matter. You can put any tank. Then you look at Professor Putricide. Any tank can do it again. And plus, your hunters are going to carry in the last phase. I would say maybe for Festergut, once again, like, you can put Feral, DK, Prot Paladin. As I said, it's like... It really depends. Like, as I said, the solo tanking protection paladin, the way I see the super strengths coming, is before ICC. Yes, they can do Lich King heroic, they can do Lich King normal solo, but their strengths that I see is before that difficulty spike. You can already do a lot solo. This is what makes them the best all-around tank, but they're not the best single target tank, right? The Freya tanking solo, it doesn't come because there's no single target threat there. It's all about like the cleave threat that comes. The Lasher is being kited by a hunter around or whatever range, as long as it's slowed, right? And you're tanking the other two. I don't know, the threat on the tree that spawns, that add, not the thing that you have to kill, stuff like that, right? That like threat doesn't matter really that much. So that's where, to answer the question fully from the chat, Lee, that's where Protection Paladin is amazing once again. But single target, cooldowns, even partially mobility, there's others that can fly like Superman and deal even more threat. But yeah, let's start wrapping it up. Do you want to pitch in, Funky, and let's see any chat questions? Last questions. We're wrapping it up here.
I mean, just talking about the Vanish thing, I don't want to misquote anybody on that. That's definitely a Fluffy. Fluffy can answer you on that one as far as Vanish goes with Tombs on Cindy. However, Shadow Meld should not remove that, to my knowledge. Shadow Meld shouldn't do anything while you're in combat. Shouldn't even your combat should be restored as soon as you relieve Shadow Meld, and I don't see Shadow Meld doing anything that's going to prevent you from getting that mark. I could be wrong, but pretty sure I'm right on that one.
The only thing that I can say is I've seen Vanish work on Warmane, on Cindy Tombs, on Sindragosa Tombs. That is the question, by the way. Sindragosa has those tombs that can be quite nasty, right? Especially if you're either super fresh progging or doing heroic. Doesn't really matter. A bad tomb can wipe your raid, right? If mispositioned, or if you can somehow vanish the tomb, right? Like rogues can. They get a tomb and they just vanish it. That's huge. I've seen it work. I've seen a rogue actually do that, so I know it works on Warmane. Will it work in Classic is a huge question. Now, in PvP, I would also need to get in touch with Icy. I know it works in PvP on some things. Like in TBC, I need to confirm it with him, but I'm pretty sure it works. Maybe, ask me the same question on the next podcast, and I will confirm it to you or not. And based on that, so if it does work in TBC, which I think it does, it might work in Rat as well. The simple reason why I think is because a lot of the stuff is going to be copy paste from TBC. For example, when beta was first launched for TBC, you received vanilla XP instead of TBC XP, as in they did not add the multiplier. So they inject things into the game, right? The models are the same. They load things into the game, and they think about it, does it work correctly or not later. There was a lot of stuff that did not work properly. There was a lot of stuff that was left over from vanilla, and it was like certain TBC elements and certain vanilla elements were like meshing in, like almost it was a collision between the two. And it was like, hey, okay, wait, why is this ability like vanilla? Why is this element of the game vanilla? Why is there no guild bank? Oh, like you have a glitch, like what's going on? So the reason why I think that you ask me about the Vanish, will it work? Most probably it will. Like, because they're gonna have to port all of that, all of the database. They're gonna have to port it and put it on the current fork that they have of a project. But yeah, if it's gonna work, I would say most likely Single, because that's Blizzard. All right, Funky, last departing words from you.
It's gonna be a busy day today. Hopefully, once again, thanks for Fark for putting us all together. I give him all the credit for doing all that. He's the one who puts us all together. I might make a suggestion here or there. He'll usually shoot me all this stuff, so I give all the credit to him for doing this. Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed doing this, interacting with us, talking about stuff. That's what we're trying to figure this out. There's some stuff that we may not know. I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I know every little detail about everything, except Resto Druid. But that's why we do this. Theory crafting in general. If you've ever done theory crafting, it's bouncing ideas off one another. It's trying to figure out what's right, what's this. There's some things we absolutely know, like we've discussed today, that just aren't correct whatsoever. And try to get that out to the community. I know it's a lot of people that I know who are theory crafters who have done this stuff for years, 10 plus years. They're just tired. They're tired of combating the problems that they see. They're tired of dealing with it. They've moved on for the most part. They've quit the game, etc., and they're tired of just dealing with it. So if you're somebody who's knowledgeable, or point them in the right direction. We have a Discord. I myself run the Discord for Elitist Jerks, for Wrath of the Lich King.
The link to that will be in the description below, by the way. If you want to check the Discord that Funky is talking about, the link will be in the description of the video.
Yeah, just try to get the proper information out there. Or at least, if nothing else, be like, hey, maybe you should go double check with so-and-so. Or, hey, let me get a hold of so-and-so. We cannot combat the misinformation on our own. Me and Fark can't do it alone. Me and other people, we've tried and failed. There's too many of them and not enough of us. There need to be more of us. But other than that, I really do hope you guys enjoyed watching, talking, interacting with us today. And every other Tuesday. So in 2 weeks from today, we'll be doing another one. I believe that we are going to be going over classes, is in terms of specs and these guides for actually classes, I should say, is what we're going to be going over. So other than that, no, I had a great time, and thanks for Fark for putting it all together.
Yeah, once again, it takes two for tango. I could have not done that without Funky. Massive Galaxy Brain Resto Druid player. Thank you so much for agreeing to doing this. It's been a pleasure. It's a little bit different format than the previous one. Previous one, we were a little bit more chill. We were just talking. It was introduction. This one, it was hands-on. Hey, look at this. Look what's being, talked about in the Warcraft community about Wrath of the Lich King, and really dissect it. And there's like certain things that bother me. Kind of, I want to have the platform to talk about it, like about tanks. And you as well, pitched and healers. Once again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You have an amazing Elitist Jerks Discord. There's a lot of talented, knowledgeable people there. Everything's going to be in the description on the video. Make sure to check it out. The link to the video that I showcased on the podcast is going to be there. Elitist Jerks Discord is going to be there. Follow Funky. Follow Funky on twitch.tv/funkiesday. On YouTube, he is Redemption Project 09. If you want to follow me, if you're watching this live, check out my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/farkgaming. And if you want to check the podcast live, it is every other Tuesday. at 3 p.m. European time, 9 a.m. EST. It's a bit early for NA, we know, but it's the, we're cross Atlantic, so this is the best that we can come up with. You can check that at twitch.tv/Fark_TV. On that note, thank you everyone that tuned in, and see you on the next one.